Hello there. My name is Dennis Menard. I'm new to the VC. This will be my first video. I was originally going to do an introduction to myself, but I figured it might be better to do that kind of along the way as start uploading videos more and more, and just kind of sprinkle it in there instead of a standalone. I think that'd be a lot more fun. Uh, and I know it's late, but I think the best way to get the channel started is just do the Vinyl Take 2019. Um, I'll be using basically the same list that Naz Nomad used. He was one of the first ones that I saw do the Vinyl Take for this year. So I say basically because there's some questions that either don't really apply to me or what have you. So we'll make do. So number one, best find in 2018. So basically, I started really collecting records. It was either early 2018, late 2017. So I could have had pretty much anything on here. Um, and I don't know whether I would consider this necessarily the best find or one that's going to be later on in the video. But I wanted to get this on here somewhere. And it is Chase the Dragon by Magnum. Let's see here. So, Magnum is basically just a hard rock band. The store that I bought it from marks it as like a prog rock. I wouldn't really consider it that. You know, it's similar to pretty much anything you'd find. Come the late 70s, early 80s. It was recorded in 1980, came out in like 81 or 82. Not a whole lot of surprises there. It's just really fun. It's really good. I haven't seen another album by them in my area, which I'm based out of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So there's not a whole hell of a lot of record stores up this way. Number two, I had shout out to other VC members. These are more viewers. Uh, the list is huge for the people that I watch either regularly or sporadically. Uh, but I kind of picked three that have under 1,000 viewers. They should have a heck of a lot more. So that's their channels are tunes from the Man Cave, Irving Park Vinyl Review, and I think the full channel name is something like Vinyl Community Steve Carlson. Uh, Steve's a lot of fun to watch. Brings a lot of positivity to the VC. Huge eclectic taste in music, a lot like myself. And the other two, tunes. Huge jazz guy. I like jazz. I don't have a whole lot of jazz. Uh, and then Irving Park Vinyl Review, of course, Irving Park, Chicago. I personally love the city of Chicago, so that's kind of a bonus for when I go down there. Maybe get some tips on with some shops. The guy has, you know, again, just an eclectic taste in music, which is something that I enjoy. That's not to say I don't watch channels that deal more with one or two genres over the other. Uh, but it's nice getting a taste of a lot of different genres if you can. I think. Number three, what holes are you looking to fill in your collection? So I got lucky this year. I managed to score a lot of Queen albums, either ones that I had bought previously, because I remember going to say Goodwills or different thrift stores when you could still actually find really good albums. So I had a pretty clean copy of Queen One, Queen's Greatest Hits, Jazz, uh, and I managed to score 3 Japanese pressings of the game. I can't remember what else I bought. 2 other ones, but I'm hoping to kind of start rounding out Queen. I want to get their whole discography if I can on vinyl. And then I need to add more metal. I like my metal music. I don't have a whole lot of it on vinyl. I got lucky. I took a trip down to Detroit recently. Managed to find a copy of a Fulton and Jetsam album. I have a couple of original Iron Maiden presses. But my metal's sorely, sorely lacking. A cheap album that's really good. So I had 2 copies of this album already, and this is also gonna. I'll tie this into another one here, which is an album you own from your parents or because of your parents, and that's Meatloaf's "Bat Out of Hell." Now this copy here is, I believe, it's 180 gram, from Friday Music. From what I understand, one of the guy that produced the album went back to the master tapes, remastered it, so instead of it being kind of muddied, and if you listen to it on pretty much any format, it sounds essentially the same, except an 8-track, because 8-track doesn't really sound great to begin with. And I have yet to listen to this pressing. I've been holding off until I can really sit down and enjoy it the way I want to. But it's cheap, or should be cheap, probably $5-10 for a good copy. As long as you don't mind the cover being a little bit beat up, maybe like an original pressing or older repress. And then like I said, my parents, they gave me their 8-track collection years ago. Growing up, I had just it's probably from the 80s, one of these all-in-one units that had a turntable, a cassette deck, AM/FM radio, and a 8-track player. So it had AC/DC's "Bat Out of Hell" and probably some Cat Stevens and whatnot in there, but I also had Meatloaf's "Bat Out of Hell," and I listened to that tape, top to bottom, a ton of times. Ended up buying the CD of it, tracked down the cassette, vinyl copy, you name it. I love this album. But in addition to that, one of my dad's favorite bands is Supertramp. Supertramp's great. Foghat. A lot of these classic albums. Which, funny story, growing up, my parents used to listen to exclusively country music. And so I have nothing against country music at all. Especially from the 90s, older stuff, and then from the 90s, your Garth Brooks, Trisha Yearwood. Hell, my first concert I ever went to was Billy Ray Cyrus at the State Fair. So, but then come high school, when I kind of started discovering music for myself, my own music tastes, and the like, come to find out, my dad's huge into Boston and Supertramp and, Foghat and this and that. It's like, well, why'd you make me listen to country for 15 years? And they didn't have a very good excuse for that one. I'm still a little bit mad. Oh, let's see here. Your favorite side project album? I thought about it. I have a pretty extensive CD collection I could have drawn from, stuff like Mad Season or whatever. But on vinyl, the only one I could really think of, without diving to see if X album it's considered a side project or not, is Temple of the Dog. Classic 90s alternative. Not a bad track on the thing. And I mean, if you haven't listened to it, go out and listen to it. I don't really know if there's anything really left to be said about Temple of the Dog. The last album you purchased. So Or sorry, well yeah, last album I purchased. So the last one I actually purchased is on pre-order for quite a ways out. But the last ones I bought here in person that are here, um, I recently went over to. Um, Basically, there's only two actual record shops anywhere near me. Plus, uh, was it Sunrise Music? So I have two new albums and a used one. The used one is a copy of, well, it's a self-titled Aviator. Yeah. So I don't really know a whole lot about this. It was in the metal area, so I suspect it's a little bit heavier. But what caught my eye were the little tags that were on the front and back, plus all the writing. So it turns out this used to be part of um, WRUC out of Union College. It's dated June 12th, 1979 from Schenectady. Um, it was obviously, catalog number 6328 for them. And there's a little note on the back here saying that I popped this album down on the turntable and listened to both sides. I didn't hear a track I didn't like, although nothing stood out. I liked the sax lines, vocals were nothing special, nor were the tunes. Really, but it was pleasant anyways, more instrumental than vocal. Um, so, I figured why not, right? Especially concerning saxophone beats. I was a saxophone player in high school. I still play occasionally. On here you got, a soprano sax, alto tenor. Just kind of some interesting instruments on here too. Lyricon, whatever, a wall bass, Taurus. Um, so I need to give that a clean and give it a spin here. And then um, the two new albums I bought. I'll start with this one here. It's a classic. I don't think I need to go into it a whole lot. I'll listen to it digitally, and I'm trying to expand my horizons on the genre a bit more. Especially with listening or watching Tunes from the Man Cave and just how much he loves jazz. And that's A Love Supreme, John Coltrane. I decided just to go for the standard pressing. They also had some sort of expanded one with like handwritten liner notes and all that. But it was a little bit pricey. And then before I show this one, I just need to say that this stems from an old cassette I had growing up, one that you could buy on the rate or on probably TV at the time. There's a bunch of them. It's called Totally Funk, and it just stuck with me all these years. I love funk music, and this is the second repress I bought from this band, and that's of course Parliament, the clones of Dr. Funkenstein. I also have Mothership Connection, Mother Earth Connection, whatever the heck it's called. I mean, between Parliament and Funkadelic, George Clinton just is a genius. Bootsy Collins, my goal too, going back to holes I'm looking to fill, is to get, pretty much as much Parliament and Funkadelic stuff I can get a hold of. I know that they've been repressing them here the last few years, and I need some. I guess is the best way to put it. So I missed a question here. A song from an artist or band that's uncharacteristic of their catalog. It took me a little bit to kind of figure out what I wanted to use for it. But what kind of stood out to me was a Dropkick Murphy song. It's called "Seasons Upon Us" from their 2013 album, signed and sealed in blood. It's a holiday song for Christmas, talking about kind of how messed up their family is. The music video is great. The song's great. I love Dropkick Murphys, but we know anything about them. We know they're these. It's kind of just a Celtic rock band. Much like Flogging Molly, and so having something, I don't want to say wholesome, but just like a Christmas song from them seemed a little bit off. It's still in their style, but it's a little bit uncharacteristic in my book. A great album with a bad cover. So originally I was gonna do REO Speedwagon's. Was you can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. Well, there's a fish with a tuning fork sticking out of its mouth, and I kind of forgot to grab it. Instead, I brought this one out, and in addition to doing some of these, VC list things, and kind of showing off things that I found recently, and music reviews, which are things I want to kind of do on this channel. I kind of want to do a video specifically on this artist. I think I only have one vinyl record of his I don't have. I have all of his stuff on CD, but this album is a live album from Stan Rogers called Between the Breaks. So Stan Rogers, he is was, excuse me, a Canadian folk singer. He was born somewhere in southern Ontario. I can't quite remember where. But I know he spent a lot of his adult life out in the Maritimes, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Labrador, that sort of area. And this, I mean, it's a great album. It was, I'm not sure when it was actually recorded. Oh, it looks like 1979, in and around Toronto. So I mean, for being a live folk recording, basically as good as you're gonna get it, I think. But I mean, look at this cover. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell with the glare and with my computer's webcam, which I'm gonna try shooting more videos with my DSLR. I just want to get this out of the way, and this is the easiest way to do it. But it's basically this really low res image that's been blown up for an LP, and like none of the facial details are great. Like it's not muddied, but it's really kind of it doesn't look great. But like I said, he only had a handful of albums, and I want to do a little bit more in depth on him. I love between sea shanties and maritime music, and he made me kind of love some more Canadian folk. And it seems like he's largely forgotten except for that crowd. He still has a big following. His son still performs. His brother still performs. But I think, more people deserve to know about Stan Rogers. There's a question on here: a bad album with a cool cover. I like my blind buys, but generally, I find it to be more like safe blind buys. Like I've either heard of the band, or some of the personnel on it I've heard, so I kind of know what to expect. So, and I won't admit that I've listened to everything in my collection either. For my CDs, I have like over 750 CDs with some still not catalog and Discogs, or my vinyl, but I can't say that I necessarily have like a bad album, and if I do, it doesn't have a cool cover. The only bad album I can really think of is House of Lords Sahara, and that's, to me, it was bad just because it sounds like everything else of his era. It wasn't anything special, but the cover was kind of boring. A blues album, again, I like the blues. I don't have a whole lot of blues. Um, I looked through my records, and I couldn't find a single what I would call a blues album. Uh, an earworm song, man. You ask me that any day of the week, it's gonna be something different. Um, lately I've had like "This Is Me" stuck in my head from the Greatest Showman soundtrack. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that question because again, an earworm might be in your ear for a day, might be in there for a week, might spring back. Um, a historically important artist. So, I could hold up Coltrane again. I could, show any number of artists, or Willie Nelson, Frank Sinatra. Um, but I was trying to think of what kind of crosses, genres people still talk about today, um, as being a big time influencer, and I don't think there's a bigger one for me. Excuse me, than Johnny Cash. This it's some old Columbia Musical Treasury box. It's not complete, but I mean, when you think about just the body of music the man had, and between being country, gospel, I think a lot of the time, even though it was a country sound, um, to me, it sometimes sounded like he crossed pretty dang close into like a classic rock. Um, and then of course, shortly before he passed away, he recorded "Hurt," the cover from Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor, and you look at any list for top cover songs, that's number one, and I'm a sucker for cover and tribute albums. I have a ton, and I'm hard pressed to think of anything better. Especially when you look back at his life and just how I won't say necessarily how close the song emulates his life, but just it kind of encapsulates it pretty well, I think. Um, and I wish I would have brought up a list of everybody that was or that has listed Cash as a influence. Um, but I don't think we have enough time for a video for that. Best dollar bin find. So I almost put this as my find of the year, um, but there's a slight problem with it. I need to figure out how to clean it up a little bit. But my small town, it has a couple of different thrift stores. One of them was a Salvation Army store, and I gone in there and I spotted this record. I bought two others that were a lot cleaner. The other two were some Live Chieftains album, and I believe it was the Herb Albert Tijuana Brass Band, Whipped Cream, and other delights. But this album I bought on a CD reissue. It had a remastered version along with just a normal album version of it. It's actually sitting right over there. And when I started collecting records or buying records regularly, I knew I wanted to find a copy, preferably an original English, but I knew that was going to be pretty expensive. But never did I think I'd find one in my neck of the woods at a Salvation Army thrift store, especially in 2018. But that's The Moves Shazam. It's this kind of to me that they sound a lot like the Beatles. They're contemporary to them. It's a little bit kind of a psycher proggy. Um, but like I said, this would be album of the year. But while one side's pretty good, probably need some light cleaning. There's some scuff marks on it. Might be a little bit noisy, but it'll hold me over until I can get a nice clean copy. And I don't know how well this is going to show up, but on side 2, there's these white spots. Now, I felt them a bit. They're kind of hard. Um, my guess is that it's paint. So I think I just need to get some cleaning solution soaked on them. I don't want to use my spin clean, and if it does come off, get this crap stuck on the brushes. But I mean, if anybody has any good ideas as how to clean that up, I'd appreciate it. But my guess as to what happened was whatever home this came from probably had it sitting on the turntable, and they were either painting. Another guess is that it could be like some sort of plaster for like putting up the walls or something similar, and it's probably sitting on the turntable with the cover off. They're painting it, and it gets flecked down on the record, which is sad. But I'm happy I have a copy to at least worst comes worst, I'll put up in a frame. I mean, it's in great shape. All things considering, it's slipping on me now. Favorite double album. I'm cheating on this one a little bit. Technically, it's a double album, but it's only 3 sides instead of 4. And I want to get this band kind of shoehorned in here a little bit. And I chose Arcade Fire's Neon Bible. Again, it's still in plastic. I have it on CD, digital. But the way Arcade Fire, it's a group out of Canada. Very eclectic music, I guess. None of their albums are super similar to their previous one. They maintain the same sort of sound, I guess, same feel. But they definitely like to change things up. And actually, I found this. I'll admit, I downloaded illegally long time ago. It was probably either in middle school or high school. I'm not sure when this album actually came out. That would tell me what it is. But being from small town USA, anything outside of top 40 or some sort of classic was hard to come by. So I just saw it's called Arcade Fire. I'm like, why would somebody set an arcade on fire? And download it, listen to it, and it was like nothing I'd ever heard of before. It was just beautiful to me. So eventually at Walmart, they started carrying it for whatever reason, so I bought that. And I found their I think they had 2 other albums before that, Funeral and a self-titled. And I've been buying them, ever since. But the funny thing to me is that they seem pretty low key. A lot of people knew about them, but nobody really talked about them a whole heck of a lot. Until one night I went to bed and the Grammys were on. Woke up the next day and all of a sudden I'm seeing all these memes posted on Facebook and Twitter about who the heck Arcade Fire is. Come to find out they win a Grammy from their album. I think it was The Suburbs. I mean, it was, so it's kind of neat, and yeah, if you want to experiment with it a little bit, if you're familiar with it's a newer band called the XX or the Double X. I'm not exactly sure how you're supposed to pronounce them. It's very similar. It's just a bigger band, some more sounds and singers and all that. An album you learned about from the VC in the last year. So this could be a ton. But the one, it's a It's something that had seemed to be popping up in pretty much everybody's videos I had watched, whether they were new videos or catching up on uh, somebody's back catalog. But again, on my trip to Detroit, I'd reached out to Dylan from Noble Records. He's a great guy. If he had less viewers, I would have showed him out a number two. And just wondering what some other good Detroit area bands were out there that might be easily overlooked. I had mentioned, like I knew about MC5 and the Stooges and whatnot, and he pointed out Frigid Pink, and so this is their self-titled. That's why I actually haven't listened to it. Ignore the price tag. This was from the first shop I stopped at down in the area. It was UHF Records in oh god, it wasn't Ferndale, Royal Oaks, I believe. It's an original pressing. I overpaid a little bit because once I got to the hotel for the night, I'm like, okay, well let's make sure it is original pressing. I had, of course, taken it out, and it's pretty damn clean. There's like a mark or two on it, but I don't think it's gonna affect play. On Parrot Records. I probably should have shown labels for some other ones too. I'll remember that for the future. But after looking at Discogs for some of the actual like first presses, it didn't really match up for one reason or another. And so for the copy that I tracked it down as to what it is, it's worth probably about actually half the price that I paid for it. I'm not upset. This is out of all, I went to probably 4 or 5 different record shops in and around Detroit, Michigan, and this is the only copy of this album I found. It's the only one I've actually seen in person either. So I'm really looking forward to giving some time with this. And so thank you again, Dylan, for pointing it out and kind of encouraging me to purchase that. A 10-inch record. I only own one. It's Mega Ran and the Mini Bosses. So side A just has a kind of a cover of Mega Man 2. I'm assuming it's the theme. Side B is from Mega Ran. These are both nerdcore adjacent. This is probably actually more considered like a chiptune album, which is I love that nerdcore kind of genre and the subgenres that go with it. Side A Mini Boss is Mega Man 2. Side B is Mega Ran, which with Splash Woman and Ground Man Part 2. I got this a couple years ago, well, 5-6 years ago now, down in Chicago. Some friends were having their own little mini comic convention alongside C2E2, which is, I'll be down there for that this year. They're having a little independent one, and they managed to get Adam Warrock, when he was still performing, to come. They had another local kind of nerdcore guy. I can't think of his name. And then somehow or another, Mega Ran must have been coming through town and contacted the guys, wondering if he could get some stage time to perform. Said, hell yeah, you can. And so I bought this from Ran. It's a great show, great guy. If you have a chance, when he's out on tour, definitely take the time and go see him and support him. And for the final record related thing, a 7-inch record. Actually, I forgot to grab the one that I wanted. Again, in Detroit, I went to Third Man Records, Jack White's shop. I love the White Stripes. I love Jack White. And I picked up a 7 inch. It's a Christmas album. It has like uh, I don't know. It had a couple of things on there. Some that wasn't on any album. But instead, I picked up it's again it's still sealed because I didn't really have a good way to play it before. Um, from Record Store Day. This is probably close to 10 years ago now. Um, the original mono mixes of Hey Joe. The A side is Stone Free by Jimi Hendrix. I think this might be the actual. Nope, I do own a Hendrix album. Um, so this was the first time. I did this circa 2013, so not that long ago. But this was the first time since the original pressings that Hey Joe had come out on mono. Uh, so I wanted to get in on that, and before they shut down, my old local record store held a copy for me while I was up at university. Um, I don't have a whole lot of 7 inches. One record store day, I was out of town and I picked up a ton that were on sale of. There must be some random local bands, but there is a lot of punk and speed metal and whatnot. Um, it just they take up the same kind of almost width of a normal LP, but they have two songs on it. And that's not to say I don't want to buy some. I'm a big fan of Joe Cocker, and I want to get a an original. A little help from my friends from the UK one day. Um, but again, I probably have maybe a dozen 7 inches records. It's not really my cup of tea. Favorite album to fall asleep to? I don't listen to music when I fall asleep. That's not to say that I don't sometimes fall asleep with the music on, but that's generally because I'm exhausted. Uh, and so I don't have an answer for that. And then, while this is pushing 40 minutes, your favorite VC experience and or advice for people making videos. So, for people making videos, I got nothing. Favorite VC experience, is probably, just messaging Dylan there at Noble Records, interacting with him a little bit. I know there's a little bit of controversy with them, or there was, because he's, it's also, sells records, but I like that. To me, it means he gets a lot of things going through his hands, stuff that a lot of us probably don't see, or maybe we see, but we have no idea what it is, but he'll take a chance and listen to it. Um, but I think just general advice for collecting or anything in general, because I know I can be this way, is um, not becoming addicted to, getting that package in the mail. I think all of us get it, especially when we know it's a record. You get it, you just, you tear off the easy to open thing, and you get that little rush, a little adrenaline rush, a little bit of serotonin in there to make you feel good. Um, and I think, and plus, for me, right now I live alone, uh, so coming home and knowing that I have that package sitting there makes you feel good too. But I think it's easy to become addicted to that feeling, and I've been trying to buy online less, unless it's like these limited pressings or like a private press sort of situation. Um, just because for a few months there, I was just pretty much out of control impulse buying stuff, and I don't necessarily regret buying it, but at the same point, you wait a little bit, sales happen. Uh, so I think that's about it. I don't know how often I'll be uploading. I'm hoping, try to get something done every week or two. Uh, at least try recording something at least once a week. Maybe try building up a little bit some fodder up for vacations and stuff. So if you have any advice, put them down in the comments. Uh, anything, any sort of questions, feel free to ask them. If I get enough questions over a period of time, do some sort of Q&A, I suppose, as hopefully I get some viewers. Uh, Otherwise, this has been fun. It's a little bit weird talking to myself in front of a camera, my computer room / bedroom. But hopefully become more natural here as time goes on. So thank you for your time, and I hope you have a nice day.